So 5 carts and all of them have something in common. They all have some of the worst games on Evercade. Let's have a look at what they are. Okay guys, in no particular order we're looking at Worms, which was on the cart with 3 games. This wasn't a great cart in my opinion. It was released at the time when we didn't even have a VS to even try and play multiplayer on it. We only had the handheld, where obviously you couldn't play multiplayer, and on the handheld you can see the sprites in this game are so tiny you can hardly see them, so it really doesn't make sense as a handheld game. Now this game is really meant for multiplayer, and you might have some fun if you play multiplayer against some friends on the VS, but if you're only at handheld, this game is practically useless to you. It's just no fun to play, and I've never enjoyed it in any platform. The original one, that is Armageddon, is definitely better. Okay, now moving on to Indie Heroes, and there is a game on here that is just absolutely terrible. I don't know why Blaze decided to have this on here. It's a kind of a shoot 'em up, but it is so basic, it is so pointless. There's not a lot to do here. The graphics are so basic. Now apparently this game was made in about maybe 15 minutes, I don't know. It was made in a very short space of time, and you can probably see why. There's not a lot happening. You don't even know that these are pickups and what you're picking up. It doesn't seem a lot of point to the game. You basically keep going through the stages here and it just keeps looping and looping. You need to sort of fire at the centre spot here, move on to the next bit, and then you do the same thing all over again. It is absolutely pointless. It's the most useless, pointless game that they could have added to this cart. It's just pure trash. There's no reason for it to be on there. They could have just removed it. It wouldn't have made any difference at all. But it's a poor game. I don't really know what Blaze were thinking here. They should have just left it off here. You can see here it's just looping. It's pointless. Okay guys, no surprising, we've got some games here that are pretty poor on the Intellivision collection too. However, there is one that definitely stands out for me that is just an absolute mess. Now, one of the issues with this game, auto racing, is the fact that the controls are just an absolute nightmare. Now, I remember Blaze saying that they wouldn't add games that were probably going to be a pain for button mapping the original Intellivision controller to an Evercade controller. But here we have auto racing, which is an absolute pain to even get going. So if you read the manual sort of tells you need to use the left pad here you see on the screen, select your course, then select your car from 1 to 5. Now the manual doesn't actually tell you that there is a difference between each of the cars. If you look at the original manual, it does make a difference in the handling depending on what car you actually choose. I can't remember off the top of my head what it is, but I'm pretty sure 5 is probably the best one. But if you choose car 1, it's probably the worst handling. It will make the game even harder. Now to get the game going, if you want to play single player, you need to press the select button and switch to the right-handed controller and then start the game. Then you need to remember to switch all the way back again to the left-hand controller, otherwise you won't be able to control the car on screen, which I've obviously forgot before I got to the corner. So once you eventually get going, it's a bit pointless because the game is absolutely terrible. It does take a bit of getting used to the controls. Basically, the car goes by itself and you sort of need to hold the brake button and then press the D-pad left or right to go round the corners. You need to be careful or you're going to crash because the handling is particularly awful. And it's not a good game. It really is not a great game at all. Admittedly, it will get better through a little bit of practice, but it's just terrible. It's not one of the games I'm going to want to come back to and get better because it's just absolutely trash. Okay, so it does pain me a little bit to actually add a C64 game, given the fact I love C64, but in this recent collection that was released on the Evercade, this game, the Movie Monster game, is just one of the worst games I've ever had the misfortune to play. Now, you have to look at that poster art there. It's fantastic. The design is terrific. The game actually has a good premise. I like the idea of the game. The graphics are okay, but it's all in that gameplay. It really isn't the best at all. It's one of the most sluggish games I've ever had the misfortune to play, and I definitely wonder why Blaze decided to put this game on here. I don't know who's going to like this game. Someone might, but for me, it's sluggish. There's a few different monsters to choose from, but it really doesn't matter which one you choose, which location you choose, or whatever you choose. It's just such a sluggish game to play. There's no enjoyment here. It's very minimal. You might get a slight laugh out of the graphics and what's actually happening, but I just feel that the gameplay, there's nothing really to do. The buttons, it's so... it's just so bad. I really don't enjoy it. Here I've sort of tried being the big glog or slime guy, I don't know. The blob, so to speak. I mean, it does look okay. The graphics are kind of basic, but for the time it probably would have been okay. But the way the characters all move is so slow, and the sort of basicness of all the controls that you've got at your disposal, it just makes the gameplay terrible. There's nothing to do. It's so unexciting. It's just boring. And it's one of these games that you kind of think, oh, this should be good, it could be good, but I think they've just made a bit of a disaster with the gameplay, and I think it's one of those games they should have just buried it, left it where it was, next to E.T. in the desert somewhere, instead of, here we have it, on the Evercade. Yeah, thanks Blaze for that one. Really, really poor. Okay, just when you think it can't get any worse, here we have one of the worst games you'll ever play in your life. According to me, I mean, some people actually like this game, but here we have Beast Wrestler on the Renovation Collection. It's a wrestling game with monsters. You know, it sounds fantastic. What a great idea for a game. Again, just like the game we've just played on the C64, the gameplay is just awful. They really shouldn't. I mean, look at the design here. The design of the graphics, the sort of title screen here, it's really good. They've obviously spent a little bit of time working on this game, and they've got a lot of things going for it, but just that gameplay sucks. It really is dreadful. You've also got the options here of playing match or a tournament. If you play tournament, obviously it's a sort of longer game if you manage to sort of progress through it, if you've got the patience. But yeah, just look at this dreadful opening text. It's just it's just awful. The sort of justification is all out. The English is poor. There's no spacing in that word there. This isn't Blaze's fault. This is obviously how the game was originally, but it's absolutely awful. And you'll notice a really terrible spelling mistake just coming up, and you'll wonder, is that deliberate or is that meant to be like that? I don't even know what an ENTS LL 2019 Warrior is. Sounds great. And a bovis? Do they mean novice? And then there's no space between this piece? What the heck? It's so bad. That should obviously give you a warning before you get to the game that things aren't going to go well here. So the only thing you can do is call my beast something bad. And let's see what happens with the gameplay then. Okay, so the faces off with exactly the same monster, just in a different colour. So I'm the left-hand monster, the one in the green. And your moves are so limited. You've got a tail swing, you've got a punch, and you've got a special button as well, which you can basically chuck the monster up into the air, and it'll plop back down again, and it'll basically lose a life. That's basically what you're trying to do here. Because you've got 3 sort of health circles, and the one with basically they all turn to red, you will lose and die. You can't even pin your monster, I don't think. I couldn't see any option to do that. You basically have to keep hitting the monster till the health bar goes down, and then the other one wins. And the wrestling matches can last about, I don't know, 8 minutes. You can see here, what was that all about? The monster just suddenly runs across the screen, hits something, and they both fall down. What's going on? It is so bizarre. And the graphics are actually quite nice. I mean, they're not too bad, typical Mega Drive sounds, but the gameplay is just terrible. I know it's supposed to be a wrestling game, and here's the special move I was talking about. Chuck the monster up into the air, and yeah, boom, they lose a life, which is really cool. But you know, you can't do anything. You could sit here for ages waiting on the monster getting up before you can fight again. It's just tedious. It really is dreadful. Then the monster just jumps into the sort of side ring ropes or whatever that's going on there, and then just falls down. And look at that, a suplex, unbelievable. Didn't even mean it, but yeah, fantastic. There are moves there, but it's I can see why people might like this game, but for me it's tedious, it's boring. And the match that took place here, it lasted for 7 minutes and it was just boring. You've got so limited moves, press the button, nothing happens, you fall down, you wait for ages to get the monster back up, and just repeat. Oh, it's just not my idea of a fun game, and for me, this could very well be the worst game on Evercade. Agreeably, that some of the games I've put on this sort of video could be any of these games you could probably put as the worst game. But I think I'm going to pick Beast Wrestler. It's just terrible. I've tried to like it, I've really tried, but I just can't. It's just one of the worst games I've ever played. I don't enjoy it. Now guys, obviously this is quite negative, this video. Evercade does have a lot of good games, which I'm going to actually do in my next video. I'm going to showcase the best games on Evercade. This one is all about the worst games, sadly. So let me know in the comments, guys. Do you agree with me? Are there other games that I should have put in this list? Let me know what are your least favourite games. Look out for the next video, guys. It's going to be the best games. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one.